What's up, everybody? It's your man Nasr here, and I want to thank you guys for joining me on this Wednesday, August 1st edition of NST. I've got all your updates from the last 24 hours of sports coming right up. First, I just want to remind you guys that after the video, you guys can hop on over to drafting.ca and vote for your man Nasr to become Canada's next sportscaster for the Score television network. So we kick off today's show with some NFL news for you. And there were some interesting things being done and some very interesting things being said in the last 24 hours. Starting in Cincinnati, on Tuesday, the Bengals opted to re-sign head coach Marvin Lewis to a 2-year extension following a 9-7 record in 2011 that earned them a wildcard berth. Lewis will be entering his 10th season as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. Only the Eagles' Andy Reid and the Patriots' Bill Belichick have longer active tenures as head coaches with one team. As a Steelers fan, I'm a bit biased towards anything Bengals related. So instead of just giving you my opinion, I decided to dig a lot deeper, and I did some very extensive research on the matter. While last season was filled with optimism, franchise firsts, and records being broken for the Bengals, it really wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. So last year, Coach Lewis became the winningest coach in Bengals history after he recorded his 69th career victory against the Cardinals in December. However, this number is offset by his overall coaching record with the Bengals, sitting at 69-74-1, which means the Bengals have only won 48% of the games that Lewis has coached. That's not very good. Now I know, some of you might say those records were piled up with bad teams with bad players, and this is a new team with brand new cornerstones. While I do believe this is the most talented ball club Coach Lewis has ever had the privilege of leading, they're not as good as some people might think. Let me break down for you exactly how the Bengals made the playoffs last year. So the 2011 Cincinnati Bengals finished with a 9-7 record in the AFC, earning themselves a wildcard berth and the 6th overall seed in the playoffs. Now, let's break down those wins and losses. Those 9 wins came against Cleveland twice, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Seattle, Tennessee, St. Louis, and Arizona. Not a single one of those teams qualified for the playoffs, and only the Titans finished with a record above 500. Now those 7 losses were against Pittsburgh twice, Baltimore twice, Denver, San Francisco, and Houston. All of those teams qualified for the playoffs, and all of those teams beat the Cincinnati Bengals. So before you go crowning the Cincinnati Bengals as 2012 AFC North champs, let's see what they can do against some real competition next year. Hell, let's see if they can even beat the Ravens or Steelers. While Marvin Lewis has led Cincinnati to the playoffs 3 of the last 7 seasons, perhaps the status quo wasn't the best move for a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game in over 20 years. I warned you that NFL players were saying some pretty outrageous things, and surprise, surprise, it was from the New York Jets. Apparently the Jets plan on using starting cornerback Antonio Cromartie in certain offensive packages as a wide receiver this year. Well, on Tuesday, Cromartie was already making headlines, as he said that he's already the 2nd best wide receiver on this roster, behind only Santonio Holmes. While the arrogant bravado of Cromartie doesn't surprise me. I mean, come on, the guy plays for Rex Ryan and the New York Jets. This is somewhat of a slap in the face to his teammates, though. At the same time, Cromartie may have a point. No, I'm not suggesting that he's right when he says he's the number 2 receiver on this team. I'm saying that Cromartie's point underlines a glaring weakness on the Jets roster at the receiver position. Outside of Santonio Holmes and tight end Dustin Keller, the Jets receivers are compiled of Chaz Schillens, Jeremy Curley, and Stephen Hill, none of which are going to make any Pro Bowls anytime soon. So while the Jets are paying big money to fix the bruised and sensitive ego of one quarterback, and then trading for another signal caller in the offseason to fix their passing game, how about they go and fix the wide receiver position and actually give these guys some freaking targets to throw to? Another NFL player making headlines Tuesday was Washington Redskins tight end Fred Davis. The young receiver was suspended last December for the remainder of the season after failing multiple drug tests. So what exactly was Davis's excuse? The weed just wasn't out of his system yet. In an interview Tuesday, the Washington tight end said that because the NFL tests its players every week, that they're being set up to fail. He was quoted as saying, "Anybody who smokes weed knows that weed isn't going to be out of your system in a month. So of course they're going to say it's repeated." All I have to say to this is, buddy, You're an NFL star and a millionaire. Take a little trip down to your local GNC, buy one of those magic little drinks that just flush everything right out. Look, in the NFL, the margin for victory and room for error are so slim. You need your best players on the field at all times. Guys are out there pretending to not have concussions so they can help their team win. You can't stop smoking dope for a few months? Just don't be an idiot, or you might find yourself out of a job. From the NFL to college football now, we shift over to Penn State. No, we're not talking Joe Paterno statues or Jerry Sandusky. I'm sick of those stories. Instead, we're focusing on the real football that's going to happen on the field. Earlier this summer, a number of Penn State players publicly came out and said that they would not abandon their school in these trying times to transfer somewhere else. Well, after the NCAA announced special rules allowing Nittany Lions football players to transfer to another school without having to redshirt for a year, some big names have decided to do so. None are bigger than starting running back Silas Redd, who's decided to take his talents to Southern California and play for the USC Trojans. Now, this may not seem like a huge move to some people, but in fact, it's a move that could rock the entire college football world. Redd rushed for over 1,200 yards and 7 TDs last year as a sophomore, and is widely considered to be one of the best up-and-coming backs in the nation. Adding Redd to a Trojans team that already features preseason Heisman favorite Matt Barkley and stud wide receivers Robert Woods and Marquise Lee makes USC the instant favorite to win the Pac-12 and possibly even the national championship. Also elected to transfer is starting quarterback Rob Bolden, and he's joining the 2011 SEC champion LSU Tigers. Bolden will likely back up junior quarterback Zach Mettenberger, but with LSU still having very high title hopes, and with head coach Les Miles never shy to create a quarterback controversy, Bolden could make some noise in Baton Rouge this year. We now look to London, where a scandal has rocked the 2012 Olympic Games. Okay, so it's not quite Michael Phelps getting caught for doping or an IOC official getting caught for gambling on the games, but a scandal is a scandal. 8 female badminton players have been disqualified from the Olympics after trying to lose matches to receive a more favorable place in the tournament. A team from China, 2 teams from South Korea, and a team from Indonesia have all been sent home after they were seen deliberately missing shots and serves. The Badminton World Federation has also received criticism after it introduced a new round-robin or group stage format for the Olympics that appeared to be the reason for the match fixing. We close out this edition of NST with U.S. Olympic swimmer Ryan Lochte. And no, we're not talking about any of his races. We're talking about the swimmer's bling. By now, you must have all seen the photos of Lochte smiling from ear to ear with the gold medal draped around his neck and rocking those sweet red, white, and blue grills. We now know the story behind said mouth gear. The piece was created by none other than the people's champ, rapper Paul Wall. Lochte, after an initial hot start to these games, has fallen on hard times recently. He gave up the lead in the 4x100 freestyle relay and finished 4th place in the 200-meter freestyle. Lochte will have a chance to redeem himself Thursday in both the 200-meter backstroke and 200-meter individual medley. I used to like Lochte because he was a fiery competitor. I like him even more now that he's trill as hell. And if you don't know what trill means, then you need to listen to more Southern rap music. And that does it for today's episode. I want to thank you guys once again for joining me on this Wednesday, August 1st edition of NST. Just a friendly reminder to hop on over to drafted.ca and vote for your man Nasr to become Canada's next sportscaster for the Score television network. And I also want to get you guys at home more involved. So if you have any questions you want me to answer, or any topics you just want me to talk about on my show, feel free to tweet them to me at NasrAhmed93. So until tomorrow, take care, folks.